This is Identity, the Breton. After being convicted for a crime he didn't commit, he spent nearly 20 years wasting away in the Imperial prisons. No one survived more than a decade in these dungeons, but Identity persisted. He emerged as a husk of who he once was. His talents had faded like a painting left out under the Alakir sun. He hadn't actually committed any crimes against his fellow man. Perhaps it was the gods themselves who demanded repentance. Only they could have kept him alive all these years. He must have done something to anger them, and they must want something from him in return. All our attributes and skills are starting at level 1, and I gotta say it was easier to set this up in Morrowind than in Oblivion. Morrowind had a mod to do it. With Oblivion, I gotta go one skill at a time with console commands. If there is a mod to do it, I couldn't find one. Although, to be fair, I didn't look very hard. Because this character never met the Emperor, according to the roleplay shtick we're going with, this run won't have us rescuing Martin or doing any of that Oblivion nonsense. No, the gods demand their succor, and as such, we'll be seeking their grace by reforming the Knights of the Nine. You might think I planned meticulously for this run, considering how underpowered we'll be and how brutal Oblivion's level scaling is, but no, I didn't. I picked a Breton because they have decent racial bonuses, the Mage Birth Sign for extra magicka independent of my levels, and the Battle Mage as a class because I was too impatient to make decisions. I expected this run to die about an hour in. I mean, look, I've got 2 hit points. But somehow I persevered and finished it. If I were to do it again, I'd make several better decisions, with the benefit of hindsight and all. But I'm not going to do it again because no. Natalie Spurrier Cyborg, where are you? I'm nearby. But no one would know. Thanks to today's sponsor, Surfshark. With the virtual private network Surfshark provides, you can hide yourself from the prying eyes of your internet service provider, preventing them from knowing what websites you're visiting and using that data for any number of purposes. Rather than feeding this data straight to your ISP, you could send your encrypted data through a VPN so your ISP only sees you communicating with that VPN. Who you talking to? It's none of your business. But if privacy isn't your concern, maybe you're interested in getting around region locks. You know The Office? That show from the UK that also has a US version? Quite the unique thing they did. The US version is available on Netflix, but not in the US. You can watch it in the UK though. With Surfshark, you can use one of their 1,000 servers to pretend you're in a different country, and Netflix will stream data to you as if you're actually in that country. And you know a small thing that I think doesn't get enough attention? Unlimited devices. Why do so many services limit devices? I'm just gonna disconnect one and add a different one as I need. They're effectively unlimited, but with obnoxious obstacles. Surfshark doesn't do that. But if you're still hesitant to buy a VPN plan, know that Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like it, no commitment. And if you use the code JBN, or use the link in the description, you can get an extra 4 months for free. Are you in the attic? Again? Yeah. It's just so warm up here. I forgot how cold the past was. So, Godsucker, where can we find that? Well, Cyrodiil doesn't have a red light district, as far as I'm aware, but Anvil does have a lighthouse, so that should be a good start. It was the Chapel of Dibella that suffered an attack recently, after all. There's a madman ranting and raving about the end times.
Another one who has come to listen to the madman's rantings.
And unlike in the real world, sometimes these fantasy world doomsayers are onto something. He tells us Umaril the Unfeathered has returned, as was foretold by Pelennor Whitestrake, that fabled hero who found elves a touch unpleasant. He might also be a robot from the future. I don't know. The line between speculation and fanfiction with the Elder Scrolls is as frayed as the end of an old shoelace. Umaril, according to the prophet, was the sorcerer king of the Ayleids, the race of elves that once ruled over Cyrodiil and kept men as slaves. Men, capital M, so humans. He's also known as the Unfeathered, implying that Ayleid kings typically had feathers, right? If a king were blind, he might get the name John the Blind. More so if he was actually named John. But if he wasn't blind, as most people aren't, you wouldn't call him John the Sighted. He's just John. So perhaps the Ayleids weren't Mer, but were birds. Birds. The joke makes more sense with captions on. Ooh, some Argonians have feathers, maybe the Ayleids were Argonians. All canon leads to Argonians. Ages ago, Pelennor slew Umaril, but Umaril's spirit survived and vowed to return and seek vengeance against the very gods who helped bring about the Age of Men. To stop Umaril, we'll need the aid of the gods, and them forbid they just help me out of the goodness of their hearts. No, we gotta collect some MacGuffins. We gotta gather up the relics of the Divine Crusader and become champion of the gods, giving them the power to act. I guess the gods in the Elder Scrolls universe are sort of impotent, what with their being dead and all, so it tracks. To get the gods' attention, we have to do something big, something bombastic, something to really wow them. What do gods love? Prayers. What do gods really love? Prayers in specific locations after you've walked a certain distance. we must travel the Pilgrim's Way. Only after we visit the way shrines of each of the 9 divines and offer up a prayer will the gods deem us worthy of insight. The prophet gave us a map to follow, but Cyrodiil is actually full of these way shrines, and you don't have to visit the exact ones he marked down. As long as you visit 9 way shrines, 1 per god, you'll be good. This is also the path you'd have to walk if you want to absolve yourself of your infamy. If your infamy is too high, you can't pray at temples and cities to cure your diseases. That's the price of crime, I guess. And since praying at the shrines is free, this means any diseased city folk you meet are evil, at least in the eyes of the gods. Otherwise, they'd have just cured themselves. There's no other excuse. It's not like there's a monetary barrier or anything. This ain't Morrowind. You got a cough? Must be a habitual liar. Dry eyes? Must be a thief. Infected toenail? Child molester. Arche, god of birth and death. It is he who protects sapient souls from being so easily soul-trapped. This ties into the whole Revenant Necromancer's Moon thing. We'll talk about that a bit later. Mara, goddess of love, fertility, and agriculture. She's nothing like that uncouth Dibella. Rat, killer of men. We'll just avoid him. Dibella, goddess of love and beauty. I like to imagine Mara is the social aspect of love. A couple holding hands in a park watching their child chase dandelion fluff. Dibella is the close the door behind you aspect of love. Upside down pineapples, you know. Oh no, the rat followed me. And in front of the shrine of Dibella too? How sacrilegious. Akatosh, dragon god of time. Sometimes he breaks and history gets weird. So with everything at level 1, obviously my carry capacity is incredibly low. That's why I've been beating up whatever defenseless wildlife I could find during my pilgrimage. Nothing says bless me divines like punching a fish to death. Hand to hand is governed by strength, so when I do level up, I'll have some extra strength attributes to allocate. We also beat up some mud crabs. Bit tougher than fish. Julianos, god of wisdom and logic, and symbolized by a triangle, so I hope by logic they mean it in a rigorous and mathematical sense, not in the annoying online argument, oh that's illogical, sort of sense. You made a fallacy, therefore it's wrong. That is the fallacy. Julianos, god of Boolean arithmetic. Please. By choosing the Battle Mage class, we started with several magic schools as major skills, and that means starting out with a few low-level spells. While running about in the world, I've been casting Detect Life every now and then, because Mysticism levels up really fast, grants intelligence attribute points, and it's one of my major skills. This is all to say, we got to level 2 during our pilgrimage with 3 +5 modifiers: strength, intelligence, and speed. More carrying capacity means we can join the Mages Guild and borrow their alchemy tools to sell for profit. It's hard to do that when you can barely lift your own arms, but with 6 strength, we could do anything. You know what they say about Khajiit with battle axes? Meow. I think my favorite thing to come out of ESO is the cinematic trailer where the Khajiiti woman hisses at a dragon. Okay. Can't say I'm not happy with this development. Weird. Eek, a rat. It can't get me on this rock. Kynareth, goddess of the heavens, the wind, and the sea, patron to travelers and sailors alike. She's also associated with the Thu'um in Skyrim. Why is this? Well, in the real world, there's a close association between air and spirit. Spirit actually comes from the Latin word for to breathe. To early man, the clearest difference between something that's animate and something that's inanimate is their ability to breathe. Seems pretty reasonable. In fact, animate has Proto-Indo-European roots leading back to the act of aspiration. Aspirate, spirit, breathe life into. There's a reason the Greybeards worship Kyn, the Nordic aspect of Kynareth. What is the Thu'um but magical wind sourced from one's own spiritual connection with the Orbis? Why doesn't it use magicka? Because it's different. We've got another level coming up, and I think it'd be a good idea to get our hands on some endurance attributes. Every level up with low endurance is just a wasted opportunity to get more health, so the sooner we can bump up this attribute, the better. One benefit of having skills at such a low level is that the training is very cheap. The cost is 10 times your level, so training from level 1 to level 6 only costs 150 gold. After a few more casts of Detect Life, we rest and ascend to level 3. We didn't net 5 points to 3 attributes this time around, but 5, 2, and 3 in Intelligence, Willpower, and Endurance is decent enough. I went for Willpower instead of Speed for a slight boost to Magicka regeneration. And look at that, 3 Endurance levels and we've already quadrupled our hit points, somehow. Oh, it's a bit different than Morrowind. Not only do you get 1/10 of your endurance as extra points of health when you level up, but your base health is twice your endurance. So even if you level up endurance late in your run, you'll still get some health benefits from it. Gotcha. I think that's a bit better than Morrowind's. Morrowind's is a bit too unforgiving. Stendarr, god of mercy. Unless you're a Daedra worshipper. The vigilance of Stendarr ain't got no mercy. Try bringing that shit to Morrowind, see where that gets you. Zenithar, god of work and commerce. I love the idea of a god of craftsmen and laborers. The god of honest pay for honest work. Leave it to the Empire to co-opt him into the god of wealth and nobility. The final shrine, Talos, god of who the hell knows. And there's a friggin' Minotaur here. What the hell, Talos? I'm level 3. Pray and flee. Rejoice! We've completed the pilgrimage of the 9 way shrines, and gained the power of Pilgrim's Grace, a greater power that boosts all of our attributes by 10 points each, usable once per day.
Hail, knight!
I can't move. Spooky voice, please, there's a bowman. Oh, he's leaving.
With a worthy heart. Your prayers
What?
have woken me from my endless
I can't hear a word you're saying, man.
or perhaps you have entered my dream, and I still sleep.
Kim, or whatever.
Cursed found a way back.
Nah, it didn't really help.
The foulest of a foul race. Fare thee well, sir knight. May the gods grant you to destroy.
You can't just walk away and expect me to hear... what do you expect from the ghost of a robot from the future past? These games are weird. Oh, god damn it. We've got a shrine to find, but we should probably give this hunter a hand with a Minotaur. Can't fast travel while it's here anyway. Or maybe this dog will be my nemesis. Oh, wow. I guess he truly is a hunter. Maybe he should be the one doing this pilgrimage. So Umaril is returning. After his defeat at Pelinal's hands, Umaril's soul returned to Oblivion to regain its strength, thanks to his alliance with the Daedric Prince Meridia. The only way to defeat him is by reclaiming all of Pelinal's relics and petitioning the 9 for their aid. It's been a minute since this all went down, so Pelinal doesn't know where his relics ended up, but he's pretty sure the helmet is in the Iliad ruins of Vanua. The entrance of the ruins is submerged, so we need to be efficient in our movements. Efficient is a fish. We can't hold our breath for very long, and once we start taking damage from drowning, we can die super fast. Not a lot of health. What is it with Oblivion's NPCs being so jumpy? So many of them lurch forward when they attack. It makes weaving in and out of their attack range nearly impossible. What, did Bethesda expect me to have more than 8 points of health and survive a couple hits before dying or something? That's ridiculous. Why would they expect somebody to play this game normally? That's absurd. We want these Welkin Stones. They fully restore your magicka, and as a battle mage, I'll be using quite a bit of magicka. See, I knew this dungeon would set me up. This was all planned. You should rest and meditate on what you've learned. I probably should. Leveling up can hurt due to how Oblivion scales enemies, but if we do a bit more grinding and get our endurance up just a bit more, we might be able to survive a hit or two from these skellies. The extra scaling might be outweighed by the extra health. First, we steal 500 gold from the lockbox outside the arena, a very hard lock indeed, but I'm a pro gamer who knows the secrets. If you listen carefully, there's a faint tink sound when the tumbler is safe to set. You can pick these locks with sound alone. Next, we watch the arena hopefuls spar with each other, getting us an easy 5 points to hand. We do some jumping jacks in the Anvil Fighters Guild doorway, and then take a nap. Not an amazing spread, but it's progress. To power level block for more endurance attribute points, we buy a shield from Varro Morvain and head over to Arvina Thalos' house, just nearby. In her basement are a bunch of rats, and what's special about these little guys is that their aggression resets when you leave the basement. This means we can aggro them, block their quick attacks for quick XP, and then leave the basement without them following us. We can also buy block training in the Fighters Guild, and it's best to do that first, since it's cheaper at lower levels. Now, before you post that comment, you might have already done it actually. I saw you typing it after we got those 5 hand-to-hand levels. We are gonna get those gloves. You know the ones. I was just waiting for the cover of night. Behind another very hard lock are the Bands of Quang Lao, light armor gloves that boost our hand-to-hand by 20 points. I don't need to explain why these will be so useful. They're light, and they boost the strength of our punches. No brainer. And while these two sleep, we can do some sneaking to ensure a few extra agility attribute points on our next level up. Vanua should be less of a problem now. Yeah, not great, but we're at least somewhat formidable. The magic definitely helps. 2 fiery touches and a punch. Skeleton archers! Will they plague me here in Cyrodiil as well? The answer might surprise you. I don't know, Doc. I think it's more than just a pulled muscle. I see your point. Perhaps I should use the humble bow and arrow. The stealth archer. It calls to me. Nah, this blows. An ossuary of skeletons later, we find Sir Amiel. After inspecting him, we realize he's a dead skeleton and not a shambling skeleton. So he probably died some time ago. His journal reveals that he was once a Knight of the Nine, a holy order devoted to collecting the very same relics we're after, and evidently they're bad at it. We also learn the location of their former headquarters, the Priory of the Nine in the West Weald. It's worth looking into, but only after we get the helm we came here for. We desecrate his corpse further by stealing his key and ring, and venture further into the ruins to find more skeletons. 20 minutes later, we emerge from the convenient hole in the wall behind the shrine and take the helm of the Crusader. Why did they ban levitation? Because you could skip half this dungeon otherwise. The Empire didn't want to make saving the world too easy. It does suck that the helm is heavy armor. Light armor versions do exist, and I tried figuring out how to swap them out, but I couldn't find anything. I think it has to do with your armor level upon acquiring the first piece, and that affects every other piece afterwards. Since we trained block with an iron shield, our heavy armor also increased, so our heavy armor was a higher level than our light armor. Hopefully the rest of the armor isn't too heavy. The helm isn't much to write home about. Fortify restoration by 2 points, and fortify personality by 25. Yeah, alright. Like most Oblivion items, it scales based on the level you were when you got the item, but not the personality. It's always 25 personality. I don't know why that doesn't scale. Could you imagine if Sir Amiel hadn't died in that dungeon? We'd have gotten the helm, but we'd have absolutely no idea where to go next. His dying is the only reason we know where the headquarters of the Knights of the Nine are. How generous the gods are to have delivered us this fortune. Another level after all that. 5 to strength, 5 to agility, and 5 to endurance. Agility will keep us from being staggered too much. How significant will level 6 be compared to level 1? I don't know, but at least if I complain about getting stagger locked, it won't be because I refuse to level up my agility. See, this is just a preliminary excuse to whine. The headquarters are out in the wilderness east of Skingrad, and on this walk I think I realized what Skyrim does better than Oblivion. We can debate whether Skyrim is an RPG with action elements or an action game with RPG elements. We can also debate if Oblivion's quests were better, this and that, you know, we can go all day. But is it that hard of a take for me to say that wandering between locations is way more interesting in Skyrim than it is in Oblivion? A lot of people say Skyrim is wide, but shallow. I don't always disagree with that, but man, at least the world had some personality, as desaturated as it could be in some places. Oblivion's overworld is pretty bland. Here we are at the Priory of the Nine. It's seen better days, but by slotting Sir Amiel's ring into the center of these floor tiles, a set of stairs appears. A set of stairs appears? A portal into the basement. I assume the spiders aren't members of the Order, and they're just squatting. See, spiders don't recognize Talos as a divine because they believe each of their legs represents a sacrifice made by each of the divines. 8 divines, 8 legs. There can't be a 9th. But soon after the Aedra spawned spiders into the world, spiders themselves felt the need to create something on their own, and yet they didn't know how. They sent their pleas into Aetherius, asking for anything to satisfy their creative desires, but the divines were silent. The only one to answer was Mephala, the web spinner, who granted them the power to weave their own webs. Yep, that's what happened. The cuirass of the Crusader is in the basement too, but when we approach, a bunch of ghosts show up. Ah, Sir Amiel, you're looking well.
Face us each in honorable combat.
Dude, take the compliment. Here's a theory. Bethesda wasn't cheap when it came to hiring voice actors. They got Wes Johnson to voice everyone in the DLC, because this entire event was just a ruse by Sheogorath, also voiced by Wes Johnson. Everyone is Sheogorath. So we gotta fight some knights, starting with Sir Gregory.
'Casimir, step forward.
And then Sir Casimir, without any time to rest. Sir Ralvis, are you shitting me? How many of these guys do I have to flail helplessly against? Yeah, the welcome stones are nice, but if that's my only means of magical regeneration, I'm screwed. I'm gonna run out. I can't reliably punch them because enemies in Oblivion swing their weapons like they're the blades on a giant wind turbine. Maybe this random armor will help. "15 minutes later, and Sir Ralvis falls. I swear, unlocking the Piety Prayer had better be worth it. Another one?
You have overcome half of us.
Only half?
Yet you remain standing. Perhaps Sir Caius.
Oh shit, Sir Caius? There ain't no way I'm fighting that skooma-addled bastard. Not like this. Kim powers, activate! Now we know what to expect when we go to the Priory, so we gotta prepare. I have an idea. It's a bit cheesy, but I think it's our only option, short of grinding for hours. It's not an exploit though, so worry not. It's interesting. We need to do some enchanting. Either we do all the recommendation quests for the Mages Guild, or we buy mage tallow candles and set up our own enchanting altar at Frostcrag Spire. I suspect the combat portions of the recommendation quests will be ass, given how tanky zombies are. So let's go the private contractor mage route and get some cash. There's nothing wrong with making an honest living by stealing things, so after joining the Thieves Guild by stealing Alexis's diary, your crimes have made you unfit to wield the Crusader's relics. Walk the pilgrim's way to repent your sins and once again seek the favor of the gods? Oh, what, we have to remain upstanding to save the world? Talk about letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. Might as well get our fill on crime before we make another pilgrimage. We ransack the shops around the Imperial City, specifically the jewelry shop, and sell the loot to Ognar and Bruma for a couple thousand septims.
I think I can a good price.
In Skingrad, we play along with Glarthir's delusions and get some easy gold from him. He tells us to spy on a few people, but we can just not do that and say we did. He pays us a few hundred gold for that, and then when he asks us to assassinate those people, we can either follow through with his request and make 1,000 gold, or we can report him to the guards, witness Imperial justice, and use Glarthir's key to steal 800 gold from his house. It's less profit, but it doesn't involve me having to kill people. I'm not opposed to killing, don't get me wrong. I just don't want to go through the effort of not getting caught. With about 3,000 gold in our pocket, we go to the Coral Mages Guild and borrow a bunch of their soul gems. We'll sell the smaller ones, keep the empty grands, and buy Soul Trap from Alberic Lita. Light? Whatever. Perhaps you're starting to understand what I'm planning. We need 25 mysticism before we can actually cast Soul Trap, so while making our way to Fort Isteris, we'll cast Detect Life over and over again. Running into bandits isn't a death sentence anymore since our health isn't in the single digits. A bit of armor never hurt either. During the Mages Guild questline, you're sent to the Dark Fissure to investigate the necromancers holed up there, and while you're there, you witness a necromancer performing a ritual under the light of the necromancer's moon. The Dark Fissure isn't the only place where one can conduct this ritual. Fort Isteris also has a similar shrine. Once every 8 days, the Shade of the Revenant descends upon Nirn. On this day, the necromancer's moon eclipses Arcay, weakening the protections Arcay grants Mundus, allowing for the creation of black soul gems. Arcay typically protects sapient souls from being captured, but when he's eclipsed, his power is weakened, and it allows people to create soul gems that are strong enough to capture those souls that he's supposed to protect. We place a grand soul gem inside the altar bathed in purple light, hit the altar with Soul Trap, and the grand soul gem is transformed, allowing it to capture black souls, the souls of men and Myr, and Khajiit and Argonians, although there's argument to say that Khajiit are a subset of Myr. The only reason I'm doing this is because monsters with grand souls don't start showing up unless we're a much higher level, but black souls have the same strength as grand white souls, regardless of the strength of the NPC. We want a big soul, and this is the easiest way to get one. Who can we kill? Bandits would work, but bandits tend to have weapons, and they fight back. Instead, we go to Breville and visit the Skooma Den. Not only can we kill the Skooma fiends, trap their souls, and steal their skooma, but there's no legal repercussions.
What did you... You know what you...
This killing was observed by forces unknown. Ooh, what could that mean? Skooma boosts both strength and speed. It might be worth having a bit of this on hand, if only to fast travel when I'm carrying too much stuff. 60 points of strength is worth a lot of bramble plinths. The Force Unknown! He gave me a knife to kill a guy named Rufio. With a filled black soul gem and just enough gold, we could buy a box of mage tallow candles from the Mystic Emporium and set up our enchanting altar at Frostcrag Spire. But we wouldn't have the money to afford the enchantment, nor would we have a weapon to enchant, or the spell I want to put on the weapon. We don't have anything. For more money, maybe we should fall back on reliable alchemy. We collect crops from the farm outside Kvatch, turn them into a bunch of fatigue potions, and sell them for a pittance. That was like 25 alchemy levels worth of potions, and all we got was a few dozen gold. This is gonna make this scaling a nightmare. Well, mistakes have been made. Time to live with them. We buy a steel dagger from a fighting chance, grab a box of candles from Arlinway, and buy weakness to magicka from... I need 50 destruction to cast it. And you can't enchant an item with an effect unless you can cast the effect. Okay, rewind. Let's steal more stuff. Expensive stuff. Unique stuff. In Anvil, we break into Jason Sextius's house, and under the cover of being here when no one else is, we covertly steal the Witch Hunter Helm, a steel helmet with a lesser resist magic effect on it, but it's worth 1400 gold. I really regret making those stupid potions. I would have reloaded to a save before I made them, but I'm pretty reckless when it comes to saving, and I would have lost a lot more progress than I wanted, so again, we're living with the mistakes. Also in Anvil, from Lel's quality merc and dice, there's a pair of the Boots of the Eel just lying on the floor in the upstairs bedroom, worth about 500 gold. They give shock resistances because obviously eels naturally resist electricity. Electric eels, however, are not eels. They're knife fish, more closely related to catfish. There's a whole family of electric catfish actually, but they get no notoriety. It's only the eel. Hold on, wait, what am I reading here? Electric eels are obligate air breathers. What? Why is that never brought up? That's more interesting than the electric part. There's a fish that has to breathe air. Not can, but has to. Neat. There's still more loot to be stolen. This time pickpocketed from Burz Grakash, leader of Cheydinhal's Fighters Guild. Waiting until he's asleep improves our chances of successfully stealing his cuirass, greaves, and shield, and his 21 gold. I didn't save scum, I swear. The greaves of the cat give 6 points of agility, so I think we'll hold on to those, and we'll sell everything else to Ognar, earning us about 1900 gold. Not as much as I expected, but it's way better than those potions. With the extra gold, we go to Skingrad, buy weakness to magicka, and drain health, and take a nap. Level 6. Level 7. Level 8, that's gonna bite me in the ass. Now we buy the Mage Tallow candles and set up our enchanting altar. We can't put drain health on the dagger. We need 25 destruction, 5 more levels. Well, one way to train destruction is with a weak self-damaging spell, but that requires spell making, which requires another box of candles. Or we could just join the Mages Guild, use their spell maker. Actually, we could train destruction on those zombies. I guess I'll pick up the quest to rescue Earthor since we're going to Bleak Flats Cave anyway. Fighting the zombies like this, blasting them with the spells, then running out of the cave and resting to regenerate magicka, may seem cheesy and unfair, but Oblivion's zombies are dumb, and I hate them, so I don't care. Who'd have guessed training a Major Skill from 20 to 25 wouldn't take very long. Finally, we can use this Black Soul Gem. On the dagger we bought from Rosan, we place a 100 point Drain Health on Strike enchantment, but it only lasts 1 second. Drain Health doesn't actually damage the enemy, it simply reduces their health by the spell magnitude for the duration of the effect. Once the effect wears off, the target regains the drained health. However, if the target of the spell has 100 health or less, the drain health effect brings their health to 0, killing them. So this dagger will one-shot any enemy with up to 100 points of health, not accounting for resistances. If we had 50 destruction, we could get real crazy with the weakness to magicka effect. The way spell effects stack and build upon each other in Oblivion is a bit silly. I can't show that off yet, but be patient. You'll see. I know the gods are mad at us because of all the stealing and murder, but maybe we can carry on with the quest for the relics regardless. We could at least try to fight the ghosts. I want to test out the dagger. Awesome. Who else wants a piece? This game's easy. Sit, kid.
You have stood against the Knights of the Nine and lived. However, the final test is upon you. Ready yourself, Sir Knight, and face me!
Our reward for the super easy task of killing nearly a dozen ghost knights is the Cuirass of the Crusader, an unfortunately heavy piece of armor that fortifies restoration by 3 points and health by 18 points. It also gives us a 15% normal weapons resistance. Not bad, but we can't wear it unless we supplicate ourselves to the gods once again. But before we leave, we'll talk to the ghosts. They'll grant us insight on the locations of some of the other relics. Sir Casimir wore the Gauntlets of the Crusader when he went to war with Sir Beric, but the war changed him, and he lost his sympathy for the weak. One day he struck a beggar who had been trying his patience, killing the man in the God of Mercy's very own chapel. He may not have intended it, but Stendar still held him accountable. Sir Casimir was cursed with weakness, and the gauntlets immediately fell from his hands, becoming so heavy that he suspects they may still be in coral on the chapel floor. Sir Ralvis tells us that the Mace of the Crusader is below the chapel of Zenithar and Leowyn. To claim the mace, we must pray to the shrine to St. Calidus and witness a vision. In this vision, we'll see the mace before us, across a great chasm, and we must rely on the faith in the Nine to guide us across. Sir Henrik, after finding the shield of the Crusader, brought it to Fort Bulwark and began working to ensure the shield remained safe for all eternity. But he died before the work was finished. He wasn't alone in his mission, however, so if all went according to plan, the shield should be well guarded, still within that very fort. Sir Junkin, or perhaps it's Junkin, I wasn't paying attention when I was killing them all, has little to say about the boots of the Crusader, only that we should travel west of the Imperial City and find a shrine to Kynareth on the edge of the Great Forest. The priests there should be able to help us further. We've got quite the laundry list, and that's not even all the relics. First things first, that pilgrimage. Visit all 9 shrines. Again. Sorted. Let's get to work on the relics. Boots first, and not because I tried getting the mace only to realize you need the boots to get the mace. West of the Imperial City, there's a shrine to Kynareth, and the priestess, Avita Vesnia, tells us if we want the boots, we gotta prove ourselves worthy. I can't believe it. What's the test? Even the priestess doesn't know. All she can do is point us to the Grove of Trials. What a mysterious name. What could possibly occur in such a place? Imagine a group of bandits setting up shop and pretending to be guardians of a powerful relic, handing out tests of worth to hapless adventurers, only to sick a bear on them or something. A trained bear, of course, so that way after the adventurer is killed, the bandits can come in and gather the loot and reset for the next traveling band of do-gooders. I guess it all comes down to how many adventurers there are out in the world, and how much you could profit from getting them killed. Well, here's the grove. What's the trial? Oh, damn it. My suspicions have been confirmed. They weren't priests at all. What a calm bear. Uh-oh. Dagger's not enough. I just need... Yeah, the secret is to run away from the bear and not attack it. That's the test. Once we've evaded death long enough, which I've been doing my whole life, a cosmic force updates our quest journal, letting us know the boots are behind this stone door. Sure enough, here they are. The boots fortify restoration by 3 points. I got nothing else, so I'll wear them. With the boots, we can return to Leowin, go into the crypts under the chapel, and pray at the altar to St. Calidus. Don't mind the ghosts, they just live here. Because we have the boots of the Crusader, what would normally be an endless pit now has an ethereal bridge made out of dubious powder running across it, leading straight to the mace. It does fire damage and turns undead up to level 5 for 5 seconds. It's also really heavy. In celebration of our success, we'll drink some skooma so we can actually carry all this crap. Oh, the chapel's under attack by pointy golden dudes. Aurorans. You never know what you're gonna get with skooma. The Aurorans have more than 100 health, so the dagger is not super effective here, but there is a bunch of priests in this place helping out with the fight. They're drawing aggro, they're dying so I don't have to, they're doing a bit of damage, enough so I can go in with a dagger and finish them off. I've got a sinking feeling that this isn't over.
I can't believe it. We survived!
Another NPC, voiced by Wes Johnson. This time, it's this lady's left shoulder. With another sip of skooma, we fast travel to the Priory of the Nine and drop the mace off in their lobby. Hopefully it stays put. I don't know if I'll need it later, but I feel like I should leave it here if I'm going to leave it anywhere. The shield is probably going to be tricky, so we'll save it for last. Gauntlets are up next. In the Chapel of Stondar, in Coral, we can ask the priest Araldur about the gauntlets, and he confirms that they've been here in the chapel for ages, completely immovable, as Sir Casimir said. Araldur has us speak with Kellen, a descendant of Sir Casimir, and he, Kellen, also suffers from the same curse that befell Casimir. That's fair. Casimir kills a beggar, and his great-great-great-great-whatever grandchildren are weak and constantly exhausted. Stendar, god of justice. Kellen suspects there's something Araldur isn't telling him, and he's right. Araldur knows the curse can be lifted from Kellen if someone else takes it onto themselves. Araldur can't do it because he's too weak himself, but we're a pretty tough cookie. I think we could do it. Praying at the shrine gives us the lay hands power which we cast upon Kellen, relieving him of his curse and placing it upon ourselves. What, you may be wondering, is this horrible curse? Damage fatigue, 5 points per second. The terror. With the curse lifted, we can pick the gauntlets up with ease. I'm not sure why the gauntlets being heavy equated to Casimir's descendants being perpetually weak and feeble. Those seem unrelated. Why does Kellen's low stamina mean no one can pick up the gauntlets? I don't get it. Doesn't matter though, because we got another relic. They fortify our restoration, as all the relics do, and they have a 50% resist disease enchantment. I'm not going to wear them because the bands of Kwang Lo are way more practical and just better all around, and they're lighter. The final relic the ghosts told us about is the shield, and it's tucked away inside Fort Bulwark, all the way in the southeastern corner of Cyrodiil. Sir Henrik built this fort with the intention of protecting the shield for all eternity, and if his men were successful, then we might have quite the time claiming the shield. It seems we're not the only ones interested in these relics. Thankfully, these conjurers are nerds and they have very little health. Oh, but the fire atronachs inside are a bit beefier. Punching them isn't gonna work. Flare certainly won't work, but I thought ahead, and I've bought mediocre spells of multiple damage types. For the enemies with a bit over 100 health, I've taken to beating them down with my fists until they're at about half health, or at least what looks like half health, and then slashing them once with a draining dagger. I want to avoid wasted swings, simply because I'd like to conserve the number of charges on the weapon. The less often we have to recharge the dagger, the better. So the less health I know the enemy has, the more comfortable I feel using the dagger, because I know it'll kill them. Oh wow, what robust defenses. Poison dart walls. Well, I guess it worked. Oh ho ho ho! I shall use the environment to my advantage. Where do you think you're going? Yeah. Conjurer Adept. He summons a Dremora. Let's just lure you into the darts. Pathetic. And what's this staff he's got? Burden? Ugh. At least his elven dagger might come in handy. Ah, a turnable handle. No less alluring than a pushable button. What did it do? The fun is in finding out. I expected that bridge to be lowered. Ah, a second turnable handle. No less alluring than a second pushable button. What did it secondly do? The second fun is in second finding out. Raise the gate and lower the bridges. Cool. Trial and error pressure switches. If the makers of this fort were smart, they'd have made the wrong path drop you into a spike pit, and perhaps put the fort underground, in some sort of pass, some underground pass. Ah, a third turnable handle. No less alluring than poison sealing darts. Clever, clever, Sir Henrik. Clever, clever. This must be the final room. Seems final roomy, you know? Another Conjurer Adept. So I'm guessing she's kind of the final boss of this place. But we've got another set of booby traps to take advantage of, so this shouldn't be a problem. First try. She dropped her enchanted pants that we can probably just sell. They aren't that heavy, so we might as well take them with us. With all the enemies dead, we've now got a puzzle to deal with. I'm not sure what hints I should be following. Damn skooma. Makes my legs all jelly. First of all, let's take a nap. All this conjurer fighting brought us to level 10, and we could use a bit more carry capacity. The puzzle here is no real mystery. Turn the levers and make all the statues face the middle. These are the kind of puzzles I always struggle with, because I expect the answer to be more complicated than just make statue look at circle. Something I really enjoyed about Tears of the Kingdom wasn't the puzzles themselves, but trying to figure out the intended way of solving those puzzles. You could brute force a lot of them, but where's the fun in that? I enjoyed looking around the environment and trying to glean what the developers were getting at. What do they leave me here that I'm supposed to use? And then you just end up launching a Korok into space. The next puzzle is a bit more tricky. You loot the item from the stone chest in the middle of the room, and take note of the ethereal item hovering over one of the chests along the perimeter of the room. Take the item you looted and place it in one of the outer chests. If you placed it in the correct chest, it'll stay in that chest, and a new item will appear in the central chest. If incorrect, the item you placed will vanish from that chest, and a new item will appear in the center of the room. Or the same item, it's random, I think. Do this over and over again until each item is in the correct chest. It's a memory game. The ethereal item that shows up above the chest changes each time, usually, so just remember what item was above each chest and place the corresponding item correctly. Since you don't need to place all 8 items correctly back to back, you could solve this in, 36 guesses? 8 plus 7 plus 6, so on and so forth. Not very secure. Definitely solvable in polynomial time, if I remember my cryptography correctly. The Shield of the Crusader, a heavy shield with a 12% spell reflect effect on it. This was the 4th and final relic the Ghost Knights sent us to collect, but there are still 2 more out there somewhere. Perhaps there have been some developments since we set out on this quest, so let's return to the Priory and see what's going on. It seems word spread rather fast, and others have joined the order as well.
I have terrible news. Sir Roderick. I think he's dead.
Sir Roderick is dead? Not Sir Roderick! Who is Sir Roderick? He was some knight questing for the relics, much like us, but he was slain while searching for the Greaves and the sword of the Crusader. Sir Beric was also a questing knight who found the Greaves and sword, but was somehow turned to evil. It was the wraith of Lord Vlindrel, Sir Beric himself, that slew Roderick. Lathan here was Sir Roderick's squire, and his knight ordered him to flee with the Greaves, which he hands over to us. The sword, however, is still in the hands of the wraith. Sounds like we got a ghost to kill. The Greaves fortify restoration and destruction, by the way, but they're too heavy, so I'll leave them here at the Priory with the other pieces of the Crusader equipment I don't want. Sir Lathan, we knighted him by the way, wants to come with us to avenge his fallen knight. And who am I to deny him this honor? A bear killed him. Inside Underpile Cave is an abandoned keep, and inside that abandoned keep is a bunch of damn skeletons. All of whom? They all got more than 100 health, so we gotta wear them down first, then use our dagger for the final blow. Being level 10, the health scaling on most enemies is a bit high, so even ghosts, weak as they are... Oh my god! Oh great, zombies. This here is the Tomb of Lord Vlindrel, but there's no fancy sword. Oh, and Sir Roderick is here too. He's doing his Sir Lathan impression. It's pretty good. Mage Fighter's Greaves. 14 points of spell absorption. Bit heavy though. Skooma time. I assume that's the Wraith with the sword on account of it being a Wraith holding a sword, but we still got some zombies tailing us. I wonder if they can swim. Evidently, I can't swim either. Coming down from the skooma high is brutal. I can't keep relying on skooma. I have to lighten the load. Sorry, spell absorption pants. You're too heavy. Ooh, can I get the zombie to fall in? What? Maybe I can edge him. Get him to the water's edge and kill him from the safety of being in the water. So you can't cast magic when you're in the water though, but if we press up against the land just right, we might be able to do it. Waiting for Magica to regenerate ain't exciting, but you gotta do what you gotta do. That should do it. Excellent. Now for the Wraith. The Wraith has 18 times 1 plus your level in health, and since we're level 10, that means it has 198 points of health. We'll need to whittle it down to about halfway before the Draining Dagger will work. And that's all she wrote. We've got the Sword of the Crusader, but it's been corrupted, and must be cleansed at the Chapel of Arkay in Cheydinhal. Yep, Aurorans. Thankfully, they follow us through doors so we can leave the chapel and get the guards to help us out. They're surprisingly effective. I'm sure Arkay tried his best to protect these people, but he's preoccupied with preparing to fix this sword. That's the 8th and final Crusader relic. The Sword of the Crusader does 8 points of fire damage for 2 seconds and damages Magica by 25 points, both on strike. Not bad. I'd probably use it if it weren't so damn heavy. There's one more Auroran. We'll let the guards handle it. I should give him these relics, goddamn. Returning to the Priory of the Nine, we find the Prophet preaching in the chapel. He tells us we've become the embodiment of Pelennor Whitestrake. Elves beware! Khajiit better check themselves too. But even though Pelennor defeated Umaril still slayed Pelennor. What hope could we possibly have? We're not a robot from the future past. Well, we have a secret weapon on our side. Whereas Pelennor had the 8, we have the 9. We have Talos, the god of fucking up elves. The Prophet grants us the blessing of Talos, which we must use to put Umaril down for good. He could just do that. He just has that power. Is the Prophet an avatar of Talos? Is he the Shezareen? Oh no, that's Lorcan. But Talos is sort of Lorcan. Then there's also Wolf that you meet in the Ghost Gate in Morrowind, and he might be Talos. Whatever. Umaril's gonna have a lot of health, so we need a new enchantment. We need 50 destruction. We need a spellmaker. Let's just join the Mages Guild. Rescue Urthor, kill the rogue mage, finger the mountain, deal with these Bruma prick wizards. Vidkin's dead, kill Kalthar, get Ardaline's staff back, join the Arcane University. I should have done this from the start. God damn it. Though to be fair, the Enchanted Dagger did make these quests a bit easier. We'll use the Spellmaker to create a weak fire damage on self spell, so we can grind up destruction without needing to attack any enemies. Fire damage, 3 points for 1 second on self. After casting the spell over and over again, we get 50 destruction, and we can now use the weakness to magic spell at the enchanting table. I have a Greater Soul and a Grand Soul Gem, not ideal, but we shouldn't need that many charges anyway. Here's a quirk about weakness to magic. It stacks. Kind of. By placing it on a dagger for 2 seconds, we'll be able to attack a second time before the debuff wears off. Weakness to magic makes subsequent applications of weakness effects stronger, so the second attack will incur a 200% weakness, and so on. It's less that it stacks and it's more that the previous effect elevates the incoming effect. They don't pull the ladder up behind them. The higher the magic weakness, the stronger the drain health effect will be. By attacking several times in quick succession, we can turn this 100 point drain health effect into a several 100 point drain health effect. Umaril has about 300 health, so this should work. There is a reason the weakness effect comes after the drain health effect. I'm not sure I understand it, but it's just a quirk of how enchantments work in Oblivion. I'm not sure how important this will be, but if we're wearing at least 6 pieces of the Crusader's armor, we'll radiate an aura that reduces Umarill's agility, luck, and strength by 60 points each, and his blade level by 50 points. He's also weak to fire if it comes from one of the Crusader weapons, but we've got the Holy Dagger of Draining, so who cares? Our target is in the Ayleid ruin of Garlus Malatar, a ruin on the western coast of Cyrodiil, not far from Anvil. The Knights of the Nine are waiting there for our command to press the assault.
We're ready for anything, Commander.
Don't worry, fellas, I'll catch up. These ruins are full of Aurorans, but the Knights are surprisingly effective. They're all dead. Oh no, there's still one alive. The goal isn't to kill all the Aurorans though. The goal is to get to that totally not a sigil stone up there and destroy it. I'm shocked there isn't a button hidden on the other side of the ruins we need to push to reveal a staircase leading up to this platform. I don't like Ayleid ruins. With the orbs shattered, the mystical wobblies in the air vanish, allowing us further access into the ruins. Behind this door, we will face Umarill the Unfeathered. Damn, this dagger's amazing. Why didn't I get 50 destruction sooner? God, I'm an idiot. Put Soul Trap on this thing with Azura's Star, you'd be set for life. Oh my god, is Umarill Wes Johnson too? Oh. Huh. Well, this isn't the end. Umarill's not truly dead. We must now cast the Blessing of Talos. Again with this shit? Oh, we're high up. Stop staggering, damn it! There's my opening. Now's my chance. And so Tamriel was once again chained under the yoke of the Ayleid. No, I'll try again. Why was it so easy that time? And Umarill ascends into infinity. That means he's dead, I guess. Oh no, I'm falling. Save me, Dagon! Ah, that worked. And there you have it. Oblivion with everything starting at level 1. Pretty brutal. Should have gone the Mages Guild route immediately instead of doing all that gold farming nonsense. Would have made this way easier.